Let's talk about the importance of documenting everything. I have clients come to me with cases with causes of action from 10, 20, 30 years ago, and it is very difficult for them to recollect any events that transpired in front of them, or worse, when they have to recount something that their parents or grandparents told them. And even more difficult is to trace out documents if there was not a proper trail maintained by them to get those documents ready and to be able to produce them in a court of law with the relevant context of how they came into possession of those documents, as well as what was the chain of custody, becomes very, very difficult when you are not documenting everything. I remember this one case where I myself was the aggrieved party. I had to draft a consumer complaint. Now, me being a lawyer, me having seen what kind of situations people fall in all the time, I immediately sat down at 7 a.m. in the morning to draft my consumer complaint. And it took me perhaps an hour to draft the entire thing, versus if I would have waited perhaps a week or 10 days or 15 days, it would have taken me 3 or 4 hours trying to recollect the dates, the time, the people who I spoke with, all of the other things. And because of the reason that everything was fresh in my memory, I was able to get off everything with extreme accuracy. Now, if you can't, if you're, say, maybe if you're not a lawyer, and if you cannot draft your own complaint, your own case, at the very least, make notes. Make notes of who you spoke with, where you spoke with that person, what was the conversation, what were the documents exchanged, everything which is relevant, make notes. It was a very, very difficult process for me to get used to the idea of documenting everything, but since I've started doing it since the past couple of years, it has really helped me. Another very painful lesson for me was when, at the time of filing my returns, my income tax returns, when things got really out of hand, when I would not be able to account for some transactions here and there, it would get really embarrassing for me to talk to my chartered accountant about it. Those were lessons that made me realize how much more important it is, not just for lawyers or CAs, but for every single person, to document everything, create a paper trail for everything. I remember there was this one case that I dealt with perhaps around 4 years ago, in which a trademark was an issue, and the parties had to show who was using that trademark prior in time to the other. And these clients had to dig out documents showing their prior use of the trademark from over 25-30 years ago. And even there were slight discrepancies in exactly how they got possession of those documents, because of which it got that much more technically difficult for us to establish our case. You do not want to 10-15 years down the line try to recollect what happened today. And even worse, if you have misplaced documents, it becomes an even bigger headache. And another point to add to that is, always create files of everything. Of course, I'm a lawyer, I have my files. You must, irrespective of your profession, also start documenting everything. Create physical or digital paper trails, so that anything that may end up in a court of law, maybe a month, maybe a year, maybe a decade down the line, you will have substantial evidence in your favor, and your memory will be intact as much as possible. Another thing to remember is, another reason why you need to do this, you need to remember, is because if you do not do this, once you step into the witness box, the opposing lawyer will shred you to pieces and will be banking upon your muddy memory. The fact that you do not recall everything that you have purportedly said in your petition, in your pleadings, even during your evidence in chief. And therefore, for all these reasons, I implore all of you, start documenting everything. It is not the small things which not documented that matter, but it's the big things which will slip in with the small things which will go undocumented, which will create these problems for you in the future.